In the middle of the night, in a quiet Fresno neighborhood in 2007, a man named Jose shoots out of bed to the sound of his dogs absolutely losing it outside in the yard. And this isn't their normal barking either. This is a lot more frantic, it's high-pitched, it sounds like they're in actual danger. Half asleep, Jose shuffles into the small spare bedroom where the security monitor is kept. It's one of those old, chunky CRT screens. It's got washed out colors. The picture is very grainy. The whole setup is there for one reason, and that's to make him feel safer, to prove that every bump in the night is just the wind brushing against the siding, or a stray cat, or nothing at all. He expects to glance at the monitor, see that a trash can has blown over, and then shuffle back to bed. But instead, what he sees on the monitor stops him dead in his tracks. On the black and white screen, crossing his lawn is something that should not exist. It looks like a pair of long, pale legs and nothing else. There's no torso, there's no arms, it's not even a head. All you see is just two white stick-like pants walking, they're almost gliding across his yard all on their own. For a second, Jose's brain just refuses to process what it's seeing. It's trying to force the image into something more familiar, but it's failing. Maybe it's a person in baggy white pants. Maybe the top half is just too dark to see on the footage. But the longer he stands there in his spare bedroom staring at this screen, the worse it all gets. He notices that the legs aren't moving like regular human legs. They're wobbling and swaying in this smooth, almost puppet-like way, as if they're attached to an invisible marionette string being pulled gently from above. And there is nothing where the rest of the body should be. He continues to stare at the screen, stunned as the thing takes its long, floating steps right across the middle of his lawn and then finally disappears out of frame. And the dogs are still losing it at this point. Now, Jose has a different problem. He's afraid of what he saw, obviously, but he's also afraid that this camera is the only thing that saw it. His heart is pounding. He lunges for the controls and he rewinds the tape, and he gets to see the same thing play out again. Two pale, disembodied legs, just as thin as warped PVC pipe, drifting past the camera in this strangely graceful kind of floating walk. He leans in even closer, and he's convinced that it has to be a costume. Somebody has to be messing with him. Maybe he'll see the outline of her torso now that he's actually looking for it. But he doesn't. There is still nothing there. And then a new thought hits him. What happens if this tape fails? What if something goes wrong with the system? What if he tries to show this to somebody tomorrow and it's just gone? So Jose decides to grab a separate camcorder and he points it directly at the screen and hits record. So imagine this bizarre sight. A man in a dark room in the middle of the night, filming his security monitor, capturing this ghostly pair of walking legs by pointing one piece of old tech at another. The footage is, of course, shaky, right? The quality is bad, but the image is clear enough, and everybody who's seen the footage sees the same thing. White legs, no body, just crossing an ordinary Fresno lawn in the middle of the night. Come morning, members of his family have been shown this. They've heard the dogs, they've watched the tape, and some of them are freaked out, but others just kind of laugh it off, because what else are you supposed to do when your brain refuses to label what you're physically seeing? But eventually, this video cannot stay private. The clip starts to leak, first to local circles, and then into the wider paranormal world, and then finally onto the early internet's growing collection of top 5 scary front yard videos, you know, those cryptids captured videos. And that's when Jose learns something else. He might not be the only one to see these things. Over time, the figure in that grainy video gets a name. People start calling it the Fresno Nightcrawler. People are latching on to this simple, almost childlike design, but yet the more you look at it, the more wrong it just starts to feel. Some people say that it looks like a pair of walking puppet pants. Others say that it's like a sleep paralysis demon that's escaped into real life. I love that one. And more footage begins to surface. Or at least that's what people claim. A similar figure appears in another video, this time in a different part of California. Later, alleged Nightcrawler shapes start showing up in other states. Oftentimes they're blurred or like suspiciously clean looking. They become so popular that artists start drawing them for fun. People start making plushies out of these things, and fans of folklore just start treating them almost like a new cryptid species. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, the original sighting, the one that started started it all in Jose's front yard gets both more famous and more buried under layers of internet myth at the same time. Over the years, people have tried to dissect the original clip. Some say it's just a kid in a sheet, with the top half being cleverly hidden by darkness and overexposure. Others think that it's a puppet on a wire, where the legs are just being controlled from above and filmed in a way that hides the rigging. Some people think that it's a digital hoax, like somebody sat there and edited this footage frame by frame to create this perfect illusion of walking legs. And all of those explanations, they all sound reasonable until you actually watch the original video and you start trying to map each of those theories on to what you're seeing. It just can't be done. The stride is way too strange, and the bend in the knees don't look human. And the way the fabric moves, if it even is fabric, doesn't line up perfectly with how a small person in a costume would walk. On the other hand, for a real creature, it's almost too bizarrely minimal. Nature has this tendency to add things, not remove them. Why would something evolve to just be legs? Isn't that weird? The more you think about it, the more you end up in this uncomfortable place where every explanation feels like it solves part of the puzzle, but never all of it. If it is a hoax, then that means that somebody sat down and deliberately invented a creature with no face and no body, zero details, and then coordinated with other people from around the world to corroborate their sightings as well. And if it's not a hoax, then that means that something walked across that Fresno yard that we do not have a category for. Security cameras are supposed to make you feel less afraid of the dark. You install them so that you have things to say like, oh, it was just a raccoon, look, or hey, it was just the wind, it was nothing. But for Jose, his security camera did not record a wild animal or the wind blowing something over. It recorded something very different. Just two walking legs, drifting through the glow of that cheap night vision camera and then out of frame. To this day, there's no official confession either. There's no universally accepted debunk that everybody can agree on. And nobody's proudly come out saying that they were the one in the costume the whole time. Instead, all we have are just these very short, very blurry surveillance clips. What do you think this thing is? If you came across one of these creatures in real life, what would you do? Would you try to approach it, or would you just turn around and sprint in the other direction as fast as possible? What other cryptids do you want to see me cover? That's about all I got for now. I'll see you in another one.